Welcome to Transforming the Toddler Years, the podcast for conscious parents, caregivers, and educators who believe tantrums aren't terrible. They are powerful opportunities for connection, growth, and learning during the first 5 years. You'll explore how to use intentional language to raise calm, confident, and deeply connected kids, because the way we talk to kids becomes how they see themselves and engage with the world. Hi, I'm your host, Cara Terrell, classroom teacher turned parent educator and teacher trainer. Are you ready to nurture your children's mind, body, and spirit? Welcome, Toddler Tribe. Let's transform the toddler years together. Hey, Toddler Tribe. Welcome back to the show. Today, I'm going to get nitty and gritty about the real world that we are living in right now. Are you concerned about the quality of your child's education? Are you concerned about the opportunities that exist for your children to be educated? I have been reading some startling numbers. Now, they're not startling in the sense that they're new, right? Trends don't just land on us. It's startling in that people are finally releasing them and talking deeply about them because we're reaching an inflection point in early childhood education where something's got to give, friends. Something's got to change because we're not serving kids well. We're not educating kids well. And if we don't do something different, it's only going to get worse. So come with me today on this little journey, this little thought experiment of where we are, where we want to go, and a little bit of how we might get there. So I've been reading things like high quality childcare is almost impossible to find and equally impossible to afford. Not new news. Now, I live in Vermont where we've been talking about this for a really long time. But what's startling right now is that if you look nationwide, California to Massachusetts, okay, let's go coast to coast. Those numbers are starting to equate. Now, when I read that the average cost of childcare, preschool or birth to 3 infant toddler care, was creeping around $25,000 a year per kid out in California, I thought, well, that's got to be the highest, right? Highest per capita. They're the biggest state. Okay. Actually, I don't know if they're the biggest state. I don't do geography quite well, or dense population geography. But anyway, they're a very large state. I thought, wow, oh, I feel awful for those people who live out in California. And then I read that according to the most recent data and census information, Massachusetts is actually the most expensive state to have high quality care or education for your child between birth and 5. And they creep up towards $30,000 per kid, my friend. And then they went into the percentages of how much of a single parent's take-home pay that is, and how much a blended family, or not blended, but 2-parent household, 2-income household, what percentage of their take-home pay that is. And I sat inside that and thought, we're not just failing our kids. We're failing our families. Because the stress and the overwhelm of sometimes actually having to decide between the passion for work that you have, this desire to actually go out and make an impact in the world while also raising kids. And the conflict there where sometimes it's actually financially making more sense to not be able to do one in order to do the other. We're failing our kids and we're failing our families. Whew. And that's just step 1, right? That's just the first truth. Then I looked at the education crisis that we have happening right now. Again, nationwide. Now, let me take you back to the very beginning of this podcast. Okay, let's go back to January of 2023. And if you go back to any of those early episodes, you're going to see that I launched this show as an educator out of deep concern for our COVID generation, who I knew were going to be not just educationally affected, right? Not just like the accrual of knowledge and the access to knowledge affected by this global pandemic, but they were going to be humanitarianly. Is that a word? I don't know. I'm a linguist. I should know. Their humanness, their ability to grow into their best selves from their earliest ages was going to be deeply affected because of the lack of social interaction and the lack of opportunity for the architecture of that brain to grow. We grow through social interaction. Okay, so I launched this show way back and I said, here's the deal, folks. There are 5 skills, 5 executive functioning and self skills that your child needs to practice daily, right now, in order to have a chance of successfully re-entering an educational system that's in place, a childcare program that's in place, and continuing on their developmental track, instead of major gaps in their social, emotional, interpersonal, and cognitive learning processes. Now, I stand by those 5, and I encourage you to go back and listen to them. Waiting, right? Delayed gratification. Emotional regulation, which is a big bucket, but it essentially means awareness of how they feel in their bodies and that they have an I can mindset of how they can move those emotions through their bodies in a healthy way. Their time management, flexible thinking. So there's a big list, but go back and check it out because they are the core skills that we as educators look for in kids when they enter a traditional program as readiness markers or success forward skills. But here's the thing. What's a traditional program anymore? The state of education is changing, and it's changing rapidly. Schools are closing. Nationwide, schools are closing. Budgets, the gap just to bare bones a budget to be able to open the doors again, are in the negative, in the millions. 9, 10, 11, 12 millions. Schools are closing. Rural areas where I live, we're having a population situation. And it is not great. So if you live anywhere that has kind of like a smaller school to begin with, well, those small schools, we're seeing declining enrollment. The declining enrollment means that the population in a classroom can be as low as 9 kids. That is our experience here in Vermont. And that we are having no choice but to have the hard conversations. How do we merge? Can we merge? We all live so far away from each other. How are we going to be able to afford to educate our kids? Now, part of this declining population is that there's a much lower birth rate, right? That's another part of this conversation, that we have less kids entering school. But that's not all there is to it. Because if you have a family where you don't just have kids between birth and 5, right? That draws you to this show, obviously. But if you have older kids as well, I'm sure that you're seeing this too. Their class sizes are shrinking because people are choosing not to enroll their kids in public education programs. I saw yesterday, and again, these numbers are kind of blowing my mind, that there is a district in Southern California where last year 75,000 kids were unenrolled by their parents. And they are predicting that next year, that number will nearly double to 140,000 kids unenrolled. So what does this tell me? All right, so as I sit here inside my little bubble, and if you know me at all, you know my bubble is character over curriculum, raising character-filled, moral-filled, value-filled, self-driven kids with the skills to conquer this world matters more to me than stuffing knowledge in their brain. Because when they seek it on their own, not only do they actually learn it and retain it, but they know how to apply it. And then amazing things happen. So what this tells me is that there is an exponentially growing number of parents who are starting to feel this way too. That whatever is happening in their own little nuclear sphere in their home, whether it's financially driven, they can't afford it, whether it is morally driven, they just don't feel like it's the right fit for their kid because they're struggling so intensely at that program, whether it is geographically driven, more and more families are choosing to learn as a family who travels, to travel and learn. These learning nomads, I guess you would call them, that world learning is for real. And that learning opportunities exist everywhere, every day, if we're available to them. Whew. So the state of education is just changing so rapidly. And then there's one more piece, and I want to take us there today. Because if we have this entire picture, if you can chew on all of this and realize that this is a family first decision, and that knowing who your kids are and how they learn best is going to be your guide for making your decision, then we need the whole picture. AI is here. It's even hard for me to say that out loud. AI in education is here. There are schools that are literal AI schools. They do 2 hours a day on the computer with an AI-driven teacher on the other side. Wow, it's those hard words for me to say in the same sentence. AI teacher. Ooh. Okay, I can do this. The idea being that personalized learning really only works when the teacher, whoever that is, can meet your child exactly where they are and their current base of knowledge, understanding what the expansion of that just enough for them to learn a little bit more and keep them moving forward is. We call it the zone of proximal development. It's Vygotsky's big work. Look it up if you'd like. And that this AI knows that about your kid. That's the premise here. That they can keep your child feeling safe and comfortable inside what they already know, while also imparting new knowledge that they can absorb quickly and keep moving forward at their own pace and their own learning time. Okay. Then the other part of the day, there are no screens. They're all interactive. It's all interpersonal. It's outdoor. It's all human. Okay, 2 hours a day of AI technology teaching your child. The rest of it is human. That exists. There are pilot programs going on, and I'm curious to see what those results turn into. But it's here. So, as you make decisions moving forward, I want you to see how this is all going to tap into your child's long-term future. Because if you've done my parenting mission statement workshop, well, masterclass, that the goal is that you raise an adult. And we want that adult to feel like they can be successful in the world. So if the state of education is changing and how kids are educated continues changing, then what's going to happen to your 4-year-old in 20 years at 24 years old? What opportunities are going to exist for them? Because AI is not only in education. AI is changing the workforce. Jobs are disappearing for people who are highly, highly qualified. Being a knowledge broker isn't going to be enough anymore. Being a human is how we are going to maintain the ability to have a job that requires us to have the nuances of kindness, compassion, and intervention, and the self skills. Now, I don't know how many of you are maybe former CEOs or like former corporate and have shifted, or maybe you're still in corporate. But I remember this conversation about soft skills versus hard skills when I did some trainings. And I thought, this is a really interesting way to label things. From the working world, a hard skill is knowledge-based. What you know and how you can use it. A soft skill or character development. What? Kindness, compassion, empathy, team player, determination, persistence, follow through. How are those soft skills? Label aside, here's what I'm going to tell you. They're self skills. And they're the new smarts. People will hire in the future and actually pay your child who becomes an adult money for those things. All the other pieces of knowledge they picked up along the way, there is going to be a digital bank that has all that in it. Their humanness is going to be how they sell themselves. And so we need to bring it back. And what I see here is an opportunity. I see this inflection point as schools are closing and parents are getting worried and pulling their kids from programs, and they're homeschooling or they're no schooling or they're world schooling, but this idea of schooling starts to feel really mushy and confusing and like overwhelming. When we reach that point as a society around any topic, it's an inflection point. It's a tipping point, according to Malcolm Gladwell. And it is time to really think about the opportunity of burning it all down and building it better, restructuring it. And that restructuring has to be by following our kids. We cannot ask them to fit in the same boxes that existed pre-COVID, the same boxes that existed pre-smartphones, the same boxes that exist currently in this AI age. The box has got to get broken down, friends. Throw it in the recycle bin and let's build Let's build something that's a different shape. Let's build something that has flexibility. Let's build something that they're not supposed to fit in. Let's build something that they build with us. I've had this on my heart for a while, and it felt like it's time to come out. So, no call to action here today. No, anything like that. I just really want you to know what's happening in the world so you can sit with it. And if you need someone to bounce things off, you're looking for someone to bounce things off, then for sure, reach out. But this is important. We cannot just continue moving forward the way we have been and think that it's going to all just be okay on the other side, because it's not. We can't do same and expect different results. So, thank you. Thank you for this investment of your time. Thank you for being willing to have this hard listen, this hard conversation. And that's the key. Open these conversations in your families. That's what I want from you today. Please. That's my challenge. Open this conversation with your partner. Open this conversation with your kids if they're old enough to really talk it through with you and get what their current experience is. And if they feel like they're chasing somebody else's expectations of them, just to get a check mark or a grade in a school, or if they feel like they really are learning how to be a better human being by being in that setting. That is step one. All right, Toddler Tribe, you know what to do. Stay mindful and proactive till our next episode of Transforming the Toddler Years.